On the morning of June the 7th, 1944, not long after first light, a senior German headquarters outside Paris stirred to life as General Wilhelm Hartmann stood over the operations table, studying the map laid out before him. Colored pins marked the positions of his armored formations, their placement forming a deliberate pattern shaped by months of planning and years of doctrine. One Panzer Corps was advancing from the Chartres region. Another elite SS armored division was pushing northward from the Lisieux area, while additional mechanized units were converging from across occupied France. On the map, the design looked decisive, like a massive steel hammer being raised for a crushing blow. The Allied landings in Normandy had begun barely 24 hours earlier. Their footholds along the coast were still narrow, fragile, and, at least in theory, vulnerable to a concentrated counterstroke. If Hartmann's armored forces could reach the coastline by the night of June 8th, there remained a possibility, however slim, that the invasion might still be driven back into the Channel. He had devoted nearly 2 years to preparing for this exact scenario. As commander of Germany's principal armored reserve in the West, Hartmann controlled what appeared to be an overwhelming concentration of force. His leading Panzer division alone fielded more than 200 tanks and assault guns, supported by hundreds of half-tracks, transport vehicles, and self-propelled artillery. The accompanying SS division added another powerful striking element, and together with the formations under his operational coordination, Hartmann believed he possessed enough armor to smash any beachhead if it could be assembled in time. By midnight, he would realize that his armored reserve was being destroyed, not in battle against enemy tanks, but along the very roads meant to carry it to the front. General Wilhelm Hartmann commanded Armored Group West, Germany's strategic reserve in France, and 4 decades in uniform had shaped his thinking around a single, unshakable principle: strike quickly and strike with overwhelming force before the enemy can consolidate. He had studied the invasion problem exhaustively and understood that the first 48 to 72 hours would be decisive. During that narrow window, a massed armored assault might fracture the Allied lodgements, much as German tanks had done at Dunkirk in 1940. On the morning of June the 7th, Hartmann still had reason to believe the plan could work. His panzer formations were already on the move toward Normandy. The hammer, as he saw it, was rising. What he did not yet understand was that the roads themselves had become the battlefield, and on that battlefield, his armored forces were already losing. The first situation reports arrived shortly after 9 in the morning. Initially, they appeared routine and unremarkable. Scattered references to air attacks along approach routes, a fuel convoy struck near Alençon, a column delayed by bomb craters south of Falaise. These were the kinds of disruptions every large-scale military movement encountered, the expected friction of war rather than signs of catastrophe. Hartmann's staff logged the reports, updated the map, and noted minor delays. Overall progress still seemed acceptable. The Panzer division was nearing its assembly area, the SS formation continued advancing, and other units were pushing forward through the French road network. The timetable had slipped, but not yet beyond what experience suggested was manageable. As the morning wore on, however, the tone of the reports began to change. A Panzer battalion commander reported that his fuel trucks had been destroyed by fighter bombers near Argentan, forcing his tanks to halt in an orchard while awaiting resupply that might never arrive. A communications officer from the SS division reported that signal vehicles had been caught on an exposed stretch of road and set ablaze, killing several men and temporarily silencing the regimental command net. By midday, isolated incidents had merged into a steady stream of bad news. Hartmann stood motionless before the map as intelligence officers read message after message aloud. A column attacked near Thury-Harcourt, 14 vehicles destroyed. An ammunition convoy struck outside Via, with explosions continuing for nearly 20 minutes as shells detonated in burning trucks. Tank transporters hit along narrow country roads, 5 Panthers lost before ever reaching the front. A medical unit strafed near Mortain, ambulances burning beside the road while wounded men died trapped in the wreckage. The operations officer struggled to preserve a coherent picture, insisting that the divisions were still advancing and that losses, while serious, remained within tolerable limits for a major operation. Hartmann listened without comment. He was a veteran of campaigns in which air attack had been an inconvenience rather than a decisive threat. He remembered a war in which German columns moved openly in daylight, shielded by friendly fighters, secure in the belief that the sky belonged to them. But the reports did not stop, and with each passing hour the situation grew more ominous. By mid-afternoon, a pattern emerged that Hartmann and his staff had never confronted before. The attacks were not random or opportunistic. They were systematic and relentless. Every major road leading toward Normandy was under constant observation, and any column that moved in daylight was detected and struck within minutes. The enemy appeared to know precisely where German units were, when they would be most vulnerable, and how to dismantle them piece by piece. Warfare itself had changed, though Hartmann was only beginning to grasp how profoundly. What he could not see from his headquarters was the vast machine the Allies had constructed above the roads of France. By the summer of 1944, the Western Allies commanded an air force of unprecedented scale and integration. American and British air units could place thousands of aircraft over France on any given day, and for the specific purpose of destroying German movement, they had developed a revolutionary air-ground system designed to turn transportation networks into killing zones. At the heart of that system was the fighter-bomber. The American P-47. Thunderbolt, a massive aircraft built around raw power and durability, could carry bombs or rockets while still engaging enemy fighters, earning it a fearsome reputation among both pilots and those on the ground. The British Hawker Typhoon was equally lethal, armed with rockets capable of penetrating the armor of most German vehicles and optimized specifically for attacking armored columns. Their pilots had trained relentlessly in low-level strike tactics, mastering the art of diving attacks that maximized destruction while minimizing exposure. Yet aircraft alone did not explain the devastation. Months before D-Day, Allied planners had launched a systematic transportation campaign aimed at shattering railways, bridges, and road junctions across northern France. Rail yards were demolished, bridges collapsed, and key intersections bombed repeatedly until traffic was forced onto predictable routes. When the invasion came, German divisions found their rail lines broken and their road movement channeled into corridors that Allied aircraft patrolled with deadly efficiency. More important still was the Allies' real-time command and control system. Radar stations, mobile control centers, forward air controllers, and liaison officers formed a seamless network linking ground observers to aircraft in the sky. A German column would begin moving, be spotted within minutes, reported up the chain, and attacked almost immediately. Strike followed strike, methodical and unrelenting, leaving survivors with the sensation not of fighting a battle, but of being hunted. On June 7th alone, American fighter bombers flew thousands of sorties in support of the Normandy landings, with British aircraft adding hundreds more. From dawn until dusk, every major road within 100 kilometers of the beaches lay under constant aerial patrol. Hartmann's armored divisions were not advancing toward combat. They were moving deeper into a trap whose jaws tightened with every passing hour. By mid-afternoon, the truth became impossible to ignore. The elite Panzer formation. Hartmann intended to lead the counterattack was hemorrhaging strength south of Caen. Its commander reported continuous air attack, burning fuel trucks, exploding ammunition vehicles, and scattered infantry seeking shelter in ditches and orchards while aircraft circled overhead. The general himself narrowly escaped death when his command car was strafed on an exposed road, forcing him to dive for cover as machine gun fire tore into the ground around him. The tanks often survived individual strikes, but tanks without fuel, ammunition, infantry, or artillery were useless. Those supporting elements were being systematically eliminated. War diaries later recorded the scale of destruction. Dozens of vehicles lost in a single day's march, including tanks destroyed before ever engaging the enemy. The division was being dismantled before it could fight. The SS armored formation fared no better, its columns caught on exposed roads by rocket-armed aircraft, whose attacks veterans of the Eastern Front found impossible to counter. At headquarters, staff officers attempted desperate measures, rerouting columns, restricting movement to twilight hours, pleading for fighter cover. But the Luftwaffe, depleted and outmatched, could not challenge Allied air supremacy. On that day, German aircraft flew only a fraction of the sorties launched by the Allies. By nightfall, Hartmann confronted a reality his training had never prepared him to face. On the map, arrows still pointed toward Normandy, but behind those symbols lay a landscape of burning wreckage, shattered communications, and exhausted units. The counterattack planned for June 8th would not happen, nor likely on any day thereafter. Standing alone before the map late that evening, Hartmann understood what the arrows concealed. His divisions would reach the front eventually, but only in fragments, depleted and undersupplied, arriving too late and too weak to change the outcome. By the time a coordinated attack might be possible, the Allied beachhead would be unbreakable. He had mastered the mathematics of armored warfare, the logic of concentration and maneuver, yet he had never fought an enemy who could see every movement and strike every road. The war he had trained for was over, replaced by a conflict of systems, networks, and information. Control of the sky now meant control of everything beneath it, and that battle had already been lost. Hartmann continued issuing orders, fulfilling his duty, but somewhere in the quiet hours of that June night, he stopped believing his tanks would drive the Allies back into the sea. Events over the following days confirmed what he already knew. Individual engagements produced moments of tactical success, but the strategic opportunity had passed. The invasion could no longer be reversed. The decisive struggle of Normandy, he would later write, was not fought on the beaches alone, but on the roads leading to them, where Allied air power destroyed Germany's last chance to concentrate decisive force. The lesson was brutal and enduring. Courage and experience could not overcome a system that saw everything and struck everywhere. Control the sky, and you control the war.